Hi, I'm Kaitlin and welcome back to another episode of Carnivorr Goes for Gold, Kaitlin or Carnivorr on Instagram. Before we get started, I cut off my dreadlocks. You probably noticed, yes, they are gone. So that happened. Just happy I didn't have to shave my head completely, but it's much shorter, much darker than I'm used to. So if I'm touching it a lot, it's because I'm just so not used to having short hair or hair at all. But anyway, back to restaurants. Number 77, starting off episode 24 with reviews of 77, 78, 79, and 80 off of Jonathan Gold's Best 101 Restaurants in LA. So number 77, I went to Valentino in Santa Monica, which is like one of the longest lasting Italian restaurants / restaurants in general in LA. This place is an institution. So much history here. So many amazing chefs have gotten their start here at Valentino and gone off to open their own restaurants, do amazing things. I went with my friend Kaitlin, who's Be Fat Be Happy on Instagram. We got there at like a, super early, like 5 o'clock reservation, one of the earliest possible. We didn't leave until 10 o'clock. And this is not even a tasting menu place. We were just sitting, drinking wine, having pasta, living our best lives. One of the longest dinners, but one of the most fun experiences of my life. It was so awesome. We got to meet Piero Salvaggio, who is just an icon in the food world. If you live here in LA, you probably know him or have heard of him. He's a total wine expert, just one of the most famous restaurant people ever. So he has been there from the beginning, and he used to be an actor, then he got into food. Very this was the thing to do back in the day, was just to be the showman, running the whole show at the restaurant. But he took us on a tour of the kitchen. We got to watch them making the pasta. He took us to the wine cellar. We got to see all these ridiculously expensive bottles, their private dining room, these huge bottles, one that had been painted with his face on it just for him. We heard stories about an earthquake that destroyed some of the bottles. He got new ones. It's just this place, the legends, the history. He was showing us all the awards they'd won, all these articles back in the day, insane, just an insane place, so much history. Anyway, then they spoiled us. We had a ton of pasta. We started with prosciutto ravioli, which they were making for a special tasting menu the next day, so they let us try it out. We had a pesto pasta that was delicious. We had veal ossobuco, we had parmesan, we had octopus, a whole Italian feast, and then of course we had dessert. We had Italian cannoli and this apple tart that was just so delicious. Valentino was Michelin starred back when Michelin was ranking LA. I'm pretty excited for them to come back next year and start ranking LA restaurants again. But this place is just so classy. The service was spectacular. There's chandeliers. It's just so nice, beautiful fine dining spot. Just reminds you of LA's classic history in fine dining. Just really special. Probably the coolest part for me was how much we got to know Piero, and he was just so kind to us, and he was just amazed that Kaitlin and I, who are both, Kaitlin's 21, I'm 23, and he was just amazed that we chose to spend our Friday night and eat for 5 hours. All we were there for was the food, and he was so awesome to see the younger generation getting into food like this. Just really cool, made us feel really good, and reminded us why we're in this industry. So thank you, Piero, and the rest of the Valentino stuff. I will definitely Kaitlin and I will be back for all the wine, all the pasta. Number 78, also with Kaitlin and our friend Jessie, Scrumptious on Instagram, we went to Asanebo, which is this Japanese restaurant in Studio City, and we tried a bunch of delicious stuff. This is pretty fancy. A lot of their things had truffles, fresh truffles, but yeah, so we started with a salad that had scallops and fresh truffles on it. We had a tomato. This Japanese place is pretty different because they use a lot of farmers market vegetables, which is, you don't see a lot of vegetables with sushi, fish dishes, which is pretty interesting to see that. So this sweet tomato was stuffed with crab and had drizzled grapeseed oil on top. That was pretty interesting. We had fresh halibut with fresh truffle on top as well, and then a beautiful kanpachi, which had yuzu, serrano peppers, sesame miso. That was so delicious and gorgeous. I've never seen such beautiful plating of fish. It's just spectacular. Really, really good spot. Pretty pricey, but that's what you'd expect from fancy fish, and then add on truffles. Of course, it's gonna be gonna be up there. 79, I went to Melisse, which is a beautiful French restaurant in Santa Monica. This was 2 Michelin starred, and Chef Josiah Citron uses a lot of farmers market ingredients right there at the Santa Monica Farmers Market. This is number 38 on Jonathan's list, and I went with my friend Ivan, who's Samurai Ivan on Instagram. We did the tasting menu, had a wonderful night. The dining room is so stunning at Melisse. It's just like, again, so classy. Like, I hadn't been to a lot of fine dining tasting menu spots in LA before this challenge. I'd been in New York, you know, while I was traveling in Europe, but it's pretty cool to see us, you know, keeping it up. We've got the service down. Like, these waiters were fantastic, so knowledgeable, so poised, just very elegant. Everything that you'd expect from such a fine dining restaurant really lived up to that in terms of service. And then the food also was very interesting. Lots of like classic French dishes, but also an influence. There was a Japanese influence, and it was really interesting on some of the dishes. But let's run through the tasting menu. Started with this oyster and Wagyu beef dish that was really tasty. Then a rosemary scented sunchoke soup. That was so tasty. So many sunchokes on the menus. I love sunchokes. It's a great flavor. So I really liked that soup. Then we went on to the egg caviar dish, which is one of their most famous dishes. So tasty. So it's like in a little jar, there's this soft poached egg, and then there's caviar on top, there's smoked trout in there, there's lemon creme fraiche. You mix it all together, pop that yolk, and then there's like this pastry, like puff pastry cookie thing on the side that you dip it in, dunk it in. So good, so good. That's like, you can see why it's been on the menu always. It's really delicious, really delicious. Then we had the foie gras terrine, which had hachia persimmon. It had pineapple, molasses, ginger, pistachio, gorgeous color. We had a Belgian endive, which came with garnet yam, black trumpets, guanciale, and sage. That was really tasty. Then we had spiny lobster from Santa Cruz Island, and that was with parsnip, escarole, chanterelles, apple, and fennel. These dishes, like, what a mouthful. So tasty and like so gorgeous. The next dish, so pretty, was the wild New Zealand John Dory type of fish, and that was served with salsify, stinging nettle, and brown butter truffle. Like 3 magic words to my ears, brown butter truffle. That was delicious. After the fish, we had Snake River Farms ribeye, gorgeous piece of meat, and that came with a carrot from Weiser Farms, a LA local favorite for vegetables, and sword lettuce, mustard, bone marrow, and porcini mushrooms. So that was one of my favorites. I always love meat, obviously. This was a fantastic one. Then between the savory and the sweet courses, we had a petite brie, which came with, it was like this brie cheese tart. Came with black truffle on top and comté fonduta. So it was this just creamy, cheesy, cheese. Love a cheese course before dessert. But of course, dessert is usually one of my favorites. So we had La Opera was the dessert, and it's like an opera cake in this sphere, this beautiful chocolate sphere, and you crack it open. That was so much fun, and it just kind of like explodes, and then the inside is oozing out, just chocolatey, delicious, dark chocolate, coffee, almond, and I love the beautiful purple swirl of the chocolate. So gorgeous, delicious too. And then of course, mignardi, there were macarons and cannelés. So French, so delicious, very fantastic. Loved this tasting menu. It was just gorgeous, classic spot, somewhere I'd bring my grandparents, a great special occasion place, and an LA institution. So very happy to check it out with my friend Ivan. Number 80 went to Tasting Kitchen in Venice on Abbot Kinney, and this is number 48 on Jonathan's list. And I'd been for dinner before, which was great. And this time I went for brunch. So this place is really cool because they change their menu like every day. I think they have a different number stamped on the menu every day. They're always trying to have, you know, something different, not stick to the same thing, get creative. I don't know if they do that at brunch too. I think they have brunch tasting menus as well, but definitely at dinner. But for brunch, we tried a bunch of delicious stuff. We started with a cheddar herb scone, a brown butter coffee cake, a like brulee grapefruit that was fantastic, French toast, and then of course we moved on to some savory options, which was a short rib hash, which came with gremolata on top. That was really tasty. and then of course an egg on top. And then we had the brunch burger, which also had an egg on top, and that came with bacon, caramelized onions, Gruyere, just like all your classic brunch dishes, but like taken to the next level. Delicious flavor, great brunch spot in Venice. So that is restaurants 77 through 80, and we're closing in on this 101 challenge. It's pretty exciting, so give this video a thumbs up if you like it, comment some of your favorite dishes, where I should eat next, and yeah, keep following along on Instagram at Carnivorr. Carnivorr goes for gold, and we'll see you next time.